The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022, season 18, episode number 1. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Why are you looking like that? You didn't know this was episode 1?
I guess not.
We
I
did
wouldn't
start.
be surprised.
We did start the new calendar year, right? Like we're here.
We're going back to the numbers.
What numbers?
Just kidding. What numbers?
McBride.
Oh, you mean like the jersey numbers?
I mean,
You got a one? You want to throw it out there?
no. I don't know who the number one's going to be this year,
Same.
though. It'll be
Last year?
interesting. There'll be some people fighting for it if they're not already.
Really?
Yes,
hearing some
it's number
things?
one. It's the number one. I mean, everybody
Everybody's gonna
wants
want
that. They still want it. That's what they're not too far removed from college where that's a big deal. So yeah, I would imagine. I really don't know this. I would think Tony Pollard, Kelvin Joseph, those guys.
Because they had it in college. Oh, well, Tony did have it in college, right?
Yeah.
You know what you're
So
talking about?
somebody will get into it.
Yeah. All right. We got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some of these recent signings, talk about some big picture stuff around the defense and offense and where they have to go from here, knowing what's happened so far in free agency. And then we might, if we have enough time, we might start a little bit extra this week of getting ready for draft, have a couple of these guys give us some of their thoughts on guys that they think could possibly be there at 24. We'll do that over the next 4 or 5 weeks, getting ready for the draft, and let you guys know what thoughts we have around those players that might be there. Let's start first with the recent signings. I'm going to throw out a name, and then you guys tell me what's the deal and tell me your thoughts on the deal. We'll go around the table, and you guys can talk about it. Let's start first with Dante Fowler. He was signed by the Cowboys. What were your thoughts on that deal? What was the deal, first of all, and what were your thoughts on it?
I don't even remember the numbers, honestly.
I thought it was 1-3.
Yeah. All I know, it was all underneath 14, like combined. That's what I know. The Dante Fowler move it was a pivot move after, Randy situation, and then they were like, all right, we're going to get Dorrance, we're going to get another guy, and this is a Dan Quinn type signing of somebody that he's coveted 2 other times in his life, and this is the 3rd time that he got him in. So I think he's just another pass rusher, another body who's had some potential. I mean, he's had some big years at times, but we'll see how they use him here.
We can just put all of this under the same umbrella. Like, they reached under the table and grabbed the big old Dallas Cowboys free agency playbook with the star on it and opened it up, and they're just following it page by page.
After Randy.
Yeah.
Because the Randy thing was like, we're just going to do this. And then this is not smart, but we're going to do it. And then and it was going to mess up everything else. That was why that thing was under the table. But once Randy did that, then it's like, we'll go back to what we...
I would argue that the Randy thing would have fit under the purview of what they do, considering re-signing your own,
yeah.
Not breaking the bank to do it, but a deal that both sides can agree on. And they pivoted to signing about 5 guys with the money instead, but like re-signing your own player at not the top of the market still fits under what they prefer to do, in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Dante Fowler was a top 5 pick. He hasn't achieved that potential. They love signing guys like that. They've done it the whole time I've been here.
Yep.
I don't really have any comments. I'm like, sorry. It's like, you get these guys. We got a new guy that's outside here. And he comes here. He does an interview. I forgot with who. I don't know if it was with Britt or you, Nick.
Yeah.
You talked to Britt, yeah.
They do the interview. He sounds excited. Everybody that comes here is like, yeah, I've always wanted to play here. It's exciting. And you're just, at least me, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, okay, you seem like a nice guy. I like you so far. Okay, let's see what you do. That's good that you're happy. I'm glad you're happy. I'm not happy just yet. Right now I'm just having a hard time. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be excited or should be excited either way. But it's just one of those things that right now, yes, good, add some depth, get ready for the draft, back yourself up where you're not having completely holes, like full-on holes in your list. But at the same time, I mean, I'm not excited.
Well, let me ask you this. They also added Dorrance Armstrong. Do you think that at this point they have enough at defensive end to be able to keep Micah Parsons where they want him, which is kind of a guy that's kind of roaming around playing linebacker? Or do you think they still need more, and he provides that more at defensive end?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the strategy that I would move forward with. I mean, Micah Parsons is going to rush the passer.
Absolutely.
I don't care if they don't have anybody else. He's going to do it, and he should do it. Not full time, but they have enough here to allow him to continue to be a versatile player. I said this yesterday. Darius Smith signed in Minnesota. You can't look at and I want to be clear, I don't think the Cowboys' pass rush is great as it's currently constructed, but I look out at the free agent market and I don't see anybody that's worth splashing that kind of money on that's going to make it significantly better. Maybe
Did that opinion change once Darius Smith got signed, or when he was still out there, same thing?
I might have signed Darius Smith, although the money that he got was pretty impressive for a guy that missed the entire season with a back injury. I don't know that I would have been excited about that deal for the money. And the same, Clowney's still out there. Again, return on investment. What is that? JPP had off-season surgery. He's been in the league for 12 years at this point. What's your ROI there? I just think I would rather spend that, kind of going back to Nick's point, I'd rather spend that money on 3 or 4 other maybe decent players at other spots than try to recapture that magic. And so you got Fowler, Dorrance, Tank, Basham, and Chauncey Golston.
Yeah.
Fine. It's
But you know what?
fine.
The saving
and then you
grace,
add Micah to that and hope that it can be better than fine.
Right.
And the saving grace to me is that we still have Dan Quinn. And until proven otherwise, based on what he's shown us last year and what he did with free agent guys, I still have hope, and I believe that he can show us and give us a lot more than what these guys have done around the NFL so far.
And that's included with Randy Gregory. I mean, Gregory, his best season was last year. We don't know for sure if he can do it without Dan Quinn. I mean, obviously people think that he can. Denver thought he could. But, he exceeded expectations just like Micah Parsons did, just like Dorrance Armstrong did. Diggs. There's a lot There's a lot of people that had their best season last year. And so, only time will tell on all that.
Nick, you had told me in some conversations we'd had that you were kind of interested in a guy like Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe that would have been a better signing than maybe Dante Fowler?
Well, Clowney is really more of I wouldn't say he's just a run stopper, but he is a pretty good run stopper.
Yeah.
He's similar, I think, to DeMarcus Lawrence. And maybe you don't want him to be your best pass rusher, but he's probably a well-rounded defensive end. I kind of liked that route. His name has never come up, so I don't know. I don't know what.
So they didn't like it, obviously, but
I don't think they ever have. But that was, I don't know. I mean, I would, but I mean, I would think he's probably a lot more expensive than Dorrance Armstrong, and Dorrance is kind of that guy. He's kind of a poor man's Clowney, I guess.
yeah.
I mean, and I don't say this as in a bad way. Maximize your profits, my dude. But Clowney has a mercenary attitude, which is again fine. But he's not. I want to wear the star on my helmet and take less money to work with. No, he's no. Somebody eventually will give me $10 million a year or whatever it is that I'm looking for. It'll happen.
Even if it takes me until I get to the
I'll
season.
wait until August
if
I have to. Yeah, he's demonstrated that attitude with his last 2 or 3 teams. Yeah. And so the Cowboys don't typically strike deals with those types of guys.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Leighton Vander Esch, linebacker. He signs a 1-year deal. What are your thoughts on bringing Leighton back this year?
I mean, I like it because of what it does for Micah. I mean, more depth you have at linebackers, guys that you're okay putting out there, the more it'll free things up for him. I think the money, it's unfortunate what happened to him. I thought one of the teams or a couple teams kind of screwed him over, honestly. But that's the way the market
What do you mean by
goes.
that?
Well, I think there were deals in place, very close to agreed, and then they switched gears on him, and it just kind of. I think he was thinking it was going to go one way, and then next thing you know, it's not. And then the money dries up kind of quick, and his number goes down dramatically. But it's all on tape. I mean, they had a lot of time. Teams had a lot of time to study this, and so I think he's a fit for certain teams and certain games. There's going to be some games where the teams run the ball a lot, and I think Leighton will be a bigger factor.
I don't think it was a coincidence that in my opinion, one of his best games last year was the San Francisco game.
And so when games like that happen, he can help. When he's chasing receivers and tight ends all over the field, it's not going to be great. So I think gone are the days where he's the all-pro first-round pick howling all over the stadium. I think that's gone. But I think he can still have a value there, and he could be a really solid player, and at times he can be a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, it feels different because he played here. He has always played here, and he's a first-round pick, so you kind of view it through that prism. But, strip that away, and it's a Dallas Cowboys signing. It covers your tracks so you're not forced to draft a linebacker early. You have a veteran who can do it. He's not going to light the world on fire probably, but you're not paying him that way anyway. So between Micah, Leighton, and Jabril Cox, you have 3 that you feel okay about. I'd like to see them add another one before the draft. It doesn't have to be Keanu Neal. Apparently, he's switching back to safety anyway.
He wants to anyway.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be Keanu Neal. It could be somebody else, but I'd like to see them bring in somebody else again.
They do have Gifford's back now, right?
Yeah.
He knows that, Derek. He's also saying somebody else.
A training camp.
I just thought
I'd like to see them bring in somebody else. But again, they're following the playbook.
Yeah.
They're doing what they can to not panic about the positions on their roster so that they can draft purely.
Ever.
I hate, you mentioned Luke Gifford, but now it's I hate when someone gets me excited and then nothing happens. That's another guy that I liked the moment he stepped here and I saw him at training camp.
No, that used to be you were okay, yeah.
Yeah,
let's go.
because he, physically,
Yeah.
he has what you would want in a linebacker, and he fit the mold of that linebacker. So he gave me a lot of hope, and I was enthusiastic about him and really wanting to see what the Cowboys could get out of him, and it just never really happened. And he's had a few injuries that just sidelined him, but it's unfortunate. And you can go back to Leighton Vander Esch, another guy that comes in here. Sean Lee gets hurt. He steps in, takes the role, becomes that guy, had an amazing rookie year, and then all of a sudden, because of injuries, again, his game kind of changes, and you're left to not seeing all that from him anymore. It just hasn't happened. I feel like his game has been declining since, when it should really be trending upwards, and it's just not. But this kind of signing, it's fine. I'm neutral right now. I'm just money wise, it's okay.
What if there's a guy out there that was, he's played 3 or 4 years and he's made a Pro Bowl and, he's a second-round pick and he's out there and he's posting pictures on Instagram of his new chiseled body. Would you sign him?
We talking
I'm
about
not.
Wagner?
Jalen Smith?
Oh, Jalen.
I'm not talking about Wagner.
Yeah.
For a second. I was
When you said second-round pick, I was thinking Wagner. I was he's been to more than a Pro Bowl.
Right,
He's been
yeah,
about 9 of those
I
things.
was just saying.
You follow him on Instagram?
I just
Checking out his body.
I've
Jeez.
I've seen it. I've seen a lot of people talking about it. Look at this
really?
guy.
I have not seen a single person tweet about that.
Me either.
I thought he was still under contract.
I
with the
did too,
Giants, to be
but
honest
then
with
all
you.
the comments said, "Sign this guy, sign this guy." I don't know. not all the comments. Some of the comments, some of them were swipe left, swipe out here.
You shouldn't know what that is.
I just think. Oh, sorry. I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, and again, none of these names are lighting the world on fire. They're not getting Bobby Wagner. I'm sorry to those of y'all that think that's going to happen.
Hurts my feelings.
Unless he brings his price way down.
His agent's a problem.
Gerard Davis,
Kidding.
the former first-round pick who
He's
was
the
with
agent.
the Lions. Rashawn Evans, another former first-round pick. Yeah, just keep signing these disappointing first-round picks. It's winning strategy.
Well, but with a guy like Quinn, I don't mind those kind of picks because that's where you might be able to find a guy. Again, if you're going to take the strategy, which I don't know if I love the strategy, but if you're taking the strategy, we're going low budget, then you'd rather take a shot on somebody that maybe at some point someone thought could play.
If you're looking for over-the-top optimism, you're not going to get it here.
Yeah.
But it is a strategy that has paid off more than once. I mean, Rolando McClain comes to mind, got some great production out of him for a short time. I know there have been more. I'm drawing a blank.
Colombo.
You talking about just in general or the linebacker?
No, just like failed high picks that came here and kind of resuscitated themselves.
Yeah.
There's more, but you get my point.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let me ask you guys this question: do you think at all that
Leonard Davis
we get to middle of this season, and because my personal opinion is I think by middle of this season, Jabril Cox, if not earlier, Jabril Cox is going to be your starter with Micah. Do you guys see the same thing, or do you think that this in any way affects them re-signing Leighton for this year? For 1 year.
I mean, I really hope so. I have high hopes for what Jabril Cox can be, but we didn't. I mean, we taught. If you go back to last training camp, you're like, "It's going to be a 4th-round pick. He can't get any snaps. What the hell is going on?" Yeah. We don't know that much about him. We know the potential. His skill set is fantastic for the modern day NFL in the sense that he's good in coverage. He's athletic. He moves much quicker than your average linebacker. Yeah, I mean, I hope that he can grab a starting job, but I'm not ready to just give it to him. Especially, he's not done with his ACL rehab, as far as I'm aware.
When do we expect him back from that, I think?
I'm not falling into that trap anymore, and I'm not trying to sit on the fence. But so, I mean, he injured it week 6, which it's an 8-month recovery. You would think that's plenty of time. Blake Jarwin wasn't 100% ready for training camp after getting hurt in week 1. Meanwhile, DeMonte Casey, who tears his Achilles in like week 5, is ready for the entire offseason program. It's not a boilerplate answer, but tearing your ACL in week 6 should give you a wonderful chance to be ready for training camp in general.
All right. Let's go on and talk real quick about the latest signing. Carlos Watkins, he was just signed, I guess, today, or at least that's the report
30
as of
minutes
today,
ago.
that he's been signed, defensive tackle, which to me is a kind of an unheralded, pretty good signing for the Cowboys. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think if you realize that it's, and it goes to the Gifford thing too. I mean, if you looked at the big board of 1 to 90 players and realize how everything goes, I mean, those slots have to be filled, and that's what it is. I mean, they're not all going to be, oh, this guy is not going to be a Pro Bowler, Carlos Watkins, but you need 5 or 6 defensive tackles that you trust, and he's one of them, and he's
probably the most trustworthy of that group.
Yeah, I thought he was a good signing last year, and I don't know exactly what the money is this year, but I'm sure it's not crazy, and I think it's one of those guys that's good to have because you don't. As good as we think Gallimore can be, and Tristan Hill and maybe Osa. And Osa, they're still young and they haven't always been reliable because they haven't been available. And one thing Carlos Watkins probably gives you.
He's probably the 3rd best signing last year behind Jaron Kearse and Brian Anger. Mm-hmm. I thought he was a useful member of this team. I don't know the money, but like Nick said, I guarantee you it's not huge. I would pencil him in as your starting one technique right now, as long as they don't do something crazy like draft Jordan Davis, which would be fun.
That would be fun.
But yeah, no, I pencil him as damn it, I can't talk. I pencil him in as a starter, and I feel fine about that. I like that move.
Yeah, very solid guy, and this is gonna be terrible, but I kind of already forgotten a little bit about him in free agency now until this weekend and then today, and you're like, oh yeah, wait a minute, yes, that's a good guy to have back. So yes, he was someone that I was forgetting about, but very, very happy that he's back. Solid guy for you guys.
That's also the kind of player he is. Like I remember there have been a number of times when I've been watching games and somebody makes a play and I'm like, who is that? And I'm like, oh, that's Watkins. Yeah. He's that kind of player. Like he kind of tends to just be in the mix and makes a play. Yeah. Like I think he's a very solid player. It's not always a bad thing. No, it's not. I think he's a very solid player for them and doesn't get that same level of credit that a lot of people get, but I think he's a very solid signing for them.
Had 32 tackles last year as a guy that isn't known for his pass rush ability. Yeah. He had 74 in 4 years in Houston, 32 last year. Yeah. So I think this scheme works for what he does clearly.
And went to the house.
He did.
Yeah.
Scored one of the 22 to score a touchdown.
Yeah. One of the few times didn't that happen in the game we were on the sideline there at the end?
Yeah,
Saints game.
One of the first times we were on the sideline this year.
Yeah.
At the end of a game.
Yeah.
Brian Anger, punter, back.
We'll see.
Pretty.
We'll see.
Yeah.
See how.
No, Nick put that
fans
out there.
were excited.
No,
but-
Nick put that out there though.
I know.
Say it.
Credit to you. It's a good stat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't do well in these first. This is the third time now he's had a 3-year deal, and the first year after he gets paid, it doesn't go so well.
Yeah.
So that's why he's been cut. I don't think he's made it to the second year of those deals. But I've said it a bunch of times. I'll say it again. He knows the value of playing with John Fossil and his scheme. His scheme is very good for punters and the stats and the averages. I think C.J. Goodwin is also good for a punter because he can get down there fast and fair catch and helps your net. So I think this is a good place. The money obviously wasn't great.
I said that. Well, it's pretty expensive. I mean, he's in the top 5 or 6 on average for punters.
That's true. $3 million a year.
It's a big number for a punter.
Yeah, it
but
is.
my thing is, if he plays like he did last year, that's well worth $3 million. Like what he does for you in field position and the way that Bones can work with him, that's well worth $3 million. And if it's not, I guarantee cutting a punter is not going to kill your cap. It's like, oh, we have a 1.8 dead cap charge. Like, oh no, woe is us. Yeah. And the other thing too is, I know, like people.
While I cry in bed dreaming about that kind of money.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's covering the NFL in a nutshell.
Yes.
Is just numbing yourself to how much money we're just casually talking about. But no, I was going to say, like, I feel like anybody there's a level of dissatisfaction with how much they're paying their punter. And people are like, oh, that money could be going toward Bobby Wagner. I'm like, well, that was never going to go toward Bobby Wagner. So why not just sign the very good punter that you had? Like, it's fine. $3 million is not going to make or break your playoff hopes.
He is a punter that does not kick off. So when you still don't have a kick, you don't really have a kicker that you trust right now. I don't know if you will have a kicker that you trust. Yeah. But
not every team has one.
No. But just be prepared. I mean, they're going to sign a kicker here probably in the next few weeks and in maybe a few days.
You've been setting everybody up.
And like, it's somebody that you've heard of.
Don't be disappointed.
No,
just know it's coming.
It's coming.
Would that change? Would that really change things and I'm going to direct this to you, Derek. Would that change things for you of what you think of a guy like Greg Sirlin if he was to come back here just on a cheaper deal? That doesn't, I mean.
I'll tell you this, like right now, I don't know that there's a lot in free agency that makes me say, no, that's absolutely better than Greg Zuerlein. But I would have a problem if they sign him and that's all they do and they go into next season with him as their starter. I still think there should be draftable kickers that you think about in this year's draft that you would possibly bring in, if nothing else, as competition and then see where it nets out. I do not go into training camp with Greg Zuerlein being the only kicker on my if they should re-sign him, that's not going to be the only kicker on my roster if I were making that
because
decision.
Money never factors into kickers.
Yeah.
When they go up to kick, you expect them to make it. I mean, especially an extra point. It doesn't matter if it's like, well, that's what you get with a 500th. No, you expect the kicker to make it.
I'm not dissatisfied with Zuerlein because he's pulling in $3.5 million.
Look how much money
I'm mad because he ain't making
dissatisfied because every other time he lines up to make a kick, it doesn't go in.
Right. Because he makes me sit in my seat during extra points.
Well,
like,
I guess
that's
I was
the
trying to
problem.
look at it from.
I want to go to the restroom. What are we doing?
I guess I was trying to look at it from like their perspective of like, you know, how they're trying to always get bargains here and there. It's like, okay, well, at least we know what we got in him. We know how he was last year, but he's a lot cheaper for us this year. Bring him back. And then just kind of, because they have done that a lot of times where they just, we'll stick with this guy. It was cheap. And then
you said it perfectly, Derek. If that's what they wind up doing, if they bring Greg Zuerlein back on a cheaper deal, that's totally fine with me as long as I don't have to listen to Bones talk about how he deserves to be the only guy to hold the job. Like you got four 5th round picks. You telling me one of those can't be a kicker? Mm-hmm. I don't even care if it's the LSU kid. Just bring somebody in.
Somebody. I don't care. Just somebody. Somebody you think can actually kick the ball and put it through the uprights. All right, real quick before we go to break, some NFL news that's breaking right now. Just saw this. Tyreek Hill goes to Miami. Miami's getting everybody this offseason. But he goes to Miami, 5 draft picks for him. A first, a second, 2 fourths, and a 6th for Tyreek Hill going to Miami?
I assume this is their goal. Good for Miami they're going to know if
They're aggressive right now.
Well, they're going to know if Tua's the guy by the end of this season.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can't make it work with the talent that they've put around him, they got one of the best left tackles in football. They
Just signed
upgraded
him yesterday, right?
Yeah, they signed Teron Armstead. They brought in Tyreek Hill. They already had Jalen Waddle, Cedric
building
Wilson.
something,
They brought in a running back that Mike McDaniel absolutely loves. Chase Edmonds. Talent around him and the ability.
Don't forget Jalen Waddle's already there.
I said that.
Oh,
Yeah,
you did? Okay,
I mean, the guys around him are not going to be why Tua doesn't succeed.
Yeah, they got options
Connor
now.
Williams.
Hey, we can laugh. I promise you, the Dolphins' offensive line, he's an upgrade of what they had. Their offensive line was a disaster last year. So
I'm not laughing.
That's the same thing for Cincinnati with Lyle. That's an upgrade for them to bring Lyle in, because Lyle, although they felt like they had a better option or at least a comparable option here, Cincinnati's offensive line did not. No. And he will be
Is he going to wear like a jersey for them, or is he going to wear like a black T-shirt that says like staff on the back? I mean, because
he's the bodyguard.
Maybe both.
The bodyguard's here.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to jump back in. We got to talk about this defense. And I'm going to ask you guys the bigger picture question about this defense. Essentially, the Cowboys have made the decision they're going to run it back. They pretty much have the same lineup from last year, minus Randy Gregory. And the question will be, is that good enough? Or are there things they still need to do on the defensive side of the ball? We'll talk about that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching Grandma how to video call and teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
Back to the break.
Miller Lite proudly presents the first Cowboys Taco Fest at Miller Lite House at AT&T Stadium Saturday, May 7th. Celebrate Cinco de Mayo with world-class tacos, drinks, live music, and more. Take advantage of early bird prices with tickets low as $15. Visit SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium. That's Taco Fest.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break, live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. As I prefaced before the break, let's talk about the defense. Essentially, the Cowboys are running it back. They got pretty much all the players that were key members of this defense back, minus a couple guys like Casey's not coming back, but they did bring back Hooker, who will presumably be their starting free safety. And so you look across this defense, Randy is the big exception. They brought in Dante Fowler. Do you think that's enough? Have they done enough right now on the defense to be at least comparable to what they were last year from a talent standpoint?
Comparable, yes. Better, probably not. And honestly, that's just football. Like, defense varies so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the trends. It's much harder to sustain a top flight defense year after year than it is an offense. Like the trends will show you that. The stats will show you that. You know, and this, I know this has been a hot topic of debate in the time since Randy left. I'm not trying to sell Randy as Von Miller, but he had that freakish level of athleticism that gave this pass rush a lot of juice. And Dante Fowler was a top 5 pick, but consistently over his career, I don't know if we've seen that. And to be fair, I've watched nowhere near as much Dante Fowler. Need to get on that here in the coming weeks. I don't have confidence that their pass rush is going to look as dynamic as it did at times last year.
I mean, I think you have to say, though, the same thing. Like, if you were to get one guy and get Randy Gregory, you would say the exact same thing, though, about Dante, just like you said with Dante Fowler. Because you would say he's got the potential to do it, but over the course of his career, he hasn't done it consistently. So, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, you were...
I would argue, though, that Randy not doing it is just because he hasn't been around to do it. Like, when he's been on the football field, he's shown that ability.
Yeah. Well, all right. I mean, Dante Fowler, though, did the interview the other day, and you could tell one thing that was very clear was that he wanted to be here. And that's something I think is very clear about Randy Gregory, is that he didn't. So you have to factor that part in it as well. Because, I mean, if Randy wanted to be here, he'd be here. That's simple as that, right? I mean, yes. You guys are ghosting me out.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying.
I mean, he wanted to be here. I mean, and this whole thing has been frustrating for me. I mean, just listening to it. Last week we didn't know what was happening when we went on the air because it sounded like he was having second thoughts or whatever.
It sounds like there were some conversations.
Yeah, but for him, I mean, I have a huge problem with some of the things Randy has said, but I have a bigger problem with the things Randy has not said. And what he has not said, at least publicly, which he's saying everything else publicly, so why not? He has not said that he appreciates Jerry Jones for doing what he did and making his career what it is. And that's the problem. This guy was free-falling in the draft. He wasn't going – I mean, who was going to take him? Second round, whatever the Cowboys finally did, put number 94 on his back, believed in him, did all that stuff, stood by him through all of these things, and then to come back and I mean, if any other team had drafted him later, third, fourth round, he'd have been out of the league so fast with all those suspensions. Cowboys stuck by him, gave him some financial help, and even though he says that's not true, they did because they gave him an extension while he was suspended, which is unheard of. And so to do all of those things and then to have your people in the media that you giving information to say that it came down to first strike, third strike, second strike, that's a bunch of crap when he's played through 9 innings of strikes his whole career. And to not say, you know what, go to another team. That's fine. If you want a fresh start, go do that. But to kind of make it spin like the Cowboys were doing shady things and all that kind of stuff and building a reason of why you left. You left because you wanted to go somewhere else, which is fine. But don't put the Cowboys in the spot where they did him wrong. If anything, they're the reason he's even getting that money. I just think it was. I lost all respect for him and some of the things that he's done. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. The interesting thing too is I think somehow we've at least I'll speak for myself. Somehow I'd made up in my mind that he was maybe even a better player than he showed while he was here. I mean, at the end of the day, the results still were the results last year. It was 6 sacks. That's not a great season for a defensive end, a starting defensive end that's the caliber of a guy that gets that kind of money. And don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have Randy Gregory back here because I would have loved to see what he could do in a second year with Dan Quinn. Can he build on that? Can he make it into more? But his career so far has not shown that he is that level of guy, like that top level of defensive end. And I do think there was a substantial amount of risk in that you get into this deal and this becomes one of those deals that people, again, look at and they're like, man, why are they giving him that much money? Because the production doesn't match up. And so good luck to him. We'll see what he does in Denver. But I do think it's one of those things where, at least for the way I think Cowboys fans should be approaching this, is you didn't lose Reggie White here. You lost a guy that you thought maybe had some ability and potential. He has not shown consistently that he can deliver that when it comes to the games and consistently do that for a season.
I thought I did a good job of explaining that I wasn't saying that.
Nobody was pointing that at you. That wasn't pointed at you. Okay. I'm just saying in general.
At you.
Yeah, that wasn't pointed at you. That's just in general.
This is just
thoughts about Randy is all it is.
We got on there last week and seriously was like, we didn't know what to think because we were told that he was maybe trying to come back or whatever because it was all kind of weird. But after everything that's happened here in this last few days, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, freakishly, like, he can be that guy. Like that interception against the Washington. I mean, that was one of the greatest plays I've seen from any defensive player.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing, and he can do that kind of stuff. But you throw it all in there too. Like, I don't know if he changes the game. I mean, he's changed a few games, but not always in the good way. I mean, he's had some penalties as well. So you're dealing with everything. You throw it all in. In this particular case, I would take Fowler and Armstrong over him because you have to rotate them anyways. You rotate them. He's going to miss some games. He gets hurt a little bit. In this case, I would take those two guys coached by Quinn over Gregory for a way cheaper price.
I think, like, quarterback and edge rusher, I'll take the freak every time. And it sounds dumb to say because Fowler was a top 5 pick. He's got 35 career sacks. He's had an 8-sack season, and then the big one was the 11.5 when he was playing with Donald in L.A. The potential's there, but give me the guy with that freakish. Jerry Jones always calls it Gumby. Give me the guy that can get like parallel to the ground, like Micah does, getting around the corner and has that potential. And it's not just about sacks, by the way. Pressures matter. Moving the guy off his spot matters. Stripping the ball. Give me like 3 of those guys, which you would have had with Randy, and then I'll fill in the back end. Mm-hmm. It didn't work out, and I don't think they are substantially worse with what they've done. Like Fowler, Armstrong, and Tank is manageable, especially when you consider that Micah's going to play a role in that as well. So, like I said, I feel fine about where they are. I don't think they're better. I don't know if they're substantially worse either.
Is there a particular area of this defense that you guys look at and say they still need help here? Like, this is still potentially a problem for them?
From a pure numbers standpoint, they need linebackers. Again, like, I just don't think they have enough to get through a season with what they've got.
With or without Luke Gifford?
Yes, with or without Gifford. I think they need bodies at linebacker. I would love to get an extra talented body at end, probably through the draft at this point. Mm-hmm. Somebody made the point. Like, this is probably the first time in my career covering the Cowboys where I'm just like, the back end's probably fine if they don't do anything to it.
Safeties are good.
I know, it's kind of crazy, right?
I mean, again, like, you can always improve it, of course.
Yeah.
Derek Stingley could fall to you in the first round of the draft. And
what are your thoughts on Derek Stingley? Because I don't want to get too far into the draft conversation, but I've heard multiple like different variations, and some are like, man, I still believe in his ability, and others that are like, man, I don't know, this could be a bust type
I've
player.
seen a fight on the air because of it.
Oh, really?
I think he's the most polarizing prospect in the entire draft, honestly, because he has the talent of a Patrick Peterson. Like, he has that just fluid, natural ability. He's got injury concerns, and honestly, as somebody who watched his entire career in college, I wonder about the buy-in. Like, I wonder if he's got the mental makeup to be dedicated when the season's not going that well.
It seemed to me, and this is similar to Clowney, that when you're a star as a freshman, SEC star on a great team and all that, it's like, all right, when can I go? When am I getting to the league?
Yeah,
because
when can I go?
And
there's very much so, but then it's also like, oh, you were having a lot of fun when there were first round picks all over your defense. Yeah. It's not so fun right now, is it? Mm-hmm. Are you going to be as dedicated as you were when you're the guy and you're 3-2 instead of 5-0? I mean, and that the NFL is all about that. So
and there's a few guys like that every once in a while where it's like, okay, you are ready, but the other 75 that have good freshman years are not. So the rule I think is fine. But Maurice Claret, I remember way back then, he was like, I'm ready to go. And Clowney and who was. But
Clowney's been a freak since high school.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm just saying. But
he's just a different beast.
I think the talent is still there for Stingley, but
I would run to the podium to draft him at 24 if he were to fall that far.
Even all the things you know of him as watching him every game.
If a guy with that type of talent, and as far as I'm aware, there's no off-field concerns in the sense of like, is he a bad guy? It's all just like football character injuries.
Is he mentally always all in? Yeah.
If a guy with that type of talent were to be there, don't even ask a question about it. If it bites you in the ass, it bites you in the ass. But the prospect of drafting Patrick Peterson 24th overall is like way too enticing to pass up.
And I mean that's kind of thing too. Like, I'm like, if he's got that much talent, like, I feel like, going back to what you were saying, Nick, a lot of that mental stuff may just be because he's frankly bored. Like his freshman year was so great, and then you got COVID, and then half the players aren't playing, and then you're thinking all along, I'm just trying to get to the league at this point. I put it on tape. I'm trying to get to the league. It could be that, and immaturity will make you do those kinds of things when you're young, you're immature, and you're looking at things a little bit differently. Like that's an immaturity issue in my opinion, not necessarily just a mental issue.
We picked all of the COVID opt-outs apart during the draft cycle last year for not wanting to play that season, and like all of them were badasses once they got drafted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll talk a little about the offensive side of the ball. I don't know that we have the same opinions there that this defense, that maybe it's comparable. I think there have been a lot more hits there and some areas that are big target areas. We'll talk about that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with...
And I'm Jay Novacek, and we're both with...
United Ag and Turf, the official tractor provider of the Dallas Cowboys.
So, if you need a tractor to bale some hay, a mower to cut some grass, or a gator to get some chores done...
Get a John Deere at United Ag and Turf.
And then, let's get to work.
Hey, Jay, that's my line.
Well, not today.
Get to work with a John Deere tractor package that's just right for you and your budget. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching grandma how to video call. And teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar. And a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere. And a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
Back to the break.
Essler Lens is going to let you watch every exciting play or body slam if you're going to watch WrestleMania there April 2nd, April 3rd. Essler experts, though, will find you the perfect lens. You can see more, do more. Essler.
Final segment of the break live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line still remains, I think, the big glaring weakness for this team. It was a problem last year, and they've only lost pieces. Whether you can argue whether those were pieces that were significant or not. The fact is, they still lost bodies, and they really haven't added anything back to offset that. That being said, do you think this is something that the Cowboys, thinking of what's left at free agency, that they can address in free agency, or do you think this has to be pretty much the draft, and they got to look at the draft for a lot of these positions, a lot of these holes?
There's no way they can be done. It would fly in the face of their usual strategy. They haven't done anything about left guard. Don't try to sell me on Connor McGovern because you benched him last year. And they don't have a swing tackle. I mean, like, it would be very out of character. Like, Josh Ball, who did not look ready for the NFL before he got hurt, and that's probably why he didn't come back last year. You're not leaning on him, and you're certainly not going to go into the draft with the entire league circling the fact that you don't have a left guard or a swing tackle. So, at the very least, I would imagine they're going to do something about that.
Yeah, because they don't want, like you just said last segment, that they don't want the Darryl Stingleys of the world to be dropping, and then you're like, dang, I can't take that guy. I wish we could, but we got to take the guard. We got to take the center or whatever because we don't have anyone. They're not going to do that. They're going to cover themselves the best that they can. That still doesn't mean they still could have holes, but they're gonna put Band-Aids on all the positions going into the draft.
Think of how everything played last year. If you look at all three of the positions, center, left guard, and then swing tackle. Where do you think there's the biggest need for concern, Amber?
Biggest need? I mean, swing tackle and guard to me is kind of both equally pretty close to each other. I mean, the other one would be center. That's kind of, you can deal with it a little bit better, but obviously still need to improve there as well. But I don't think I can pick out one of the two of swing tackle and guard. It's such a big problem right now because you guys just talked about signing a guy, backing themselves up, but you gotta bring someone that's actually good. Like, you can't just sign anybody just to have a body. You need someone that can actually be good, because whoever you draft in the draft, I'm like, oh God, I'm messing up my draft. Yeah, sorry, but whoever you get in the draft, you're not certain either that guy is going to be able to give you what you need at the level that you needed their first year. And we saw how much Dak struggled. He needed the protection. We saw clearly how much the running game struggled. And Zeke and Tony Pollard need the help too. So it's just in all three positions. The only one that I would be kind of left kind of behind would be center. But other than that, you have to get someone with experience there.
It's a cop-out, but I will just say left guard for the time being because they don't have somebody.
They don't have anybody.
I would not want to go into the season with Connor McGovern. Matt Farniak's never done anything in a real NFL game. I've been saying this for a while. We hate on Tyler Biotish because we got used to watching Travis Frederick for so long. Like, if Tyler is the starting center week 1, that's fine, as long as the left guard is much better than him. Like if you draft a first-round pick to play left guard or something like that, and you've got a guy that you can kind of count on to hold his own, I can live with that. I can't live with the options of that are available at left guard right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation when you let the guy leave because you didn't want him as left guard, and he's making $7 million a year. So he's the guy that you're like, okay, we don't want him. You certainly don't want to pay a guy $7 million a year at guard. So it's kind of a tough dilemma. It has to be a draft.
But let me ask you this: is that a question of money, or they just didn't want to pay him $7 million? Like, if there's another guy out there that they could do a veteran guard that they're like, this is a good player, and they could get him for a 1-year deal for $7 million, you think they wouldn't want to do that?
No, I mean, but that's the thing. Is he going to be better than Connor Williams? Is he? Because he knows what Connor Williams is making. That's what happened with Darius Smith. Darius Smith was about to sign for about $8.5 million somewhere, and then they were like, time out. Randy's getting 14? This guy's getting 20, 18? No. And so it's going to be tough to say, all right, you want me to be better than the Connor Williams who's making $7 million a year. I mean, so you got to get creative with the cap, and that's something that's tough to do.
No, and to be clear, I think they will sign a swing tackle and a guard. Is it going to be somebody that's going to knock your socks off? No. All those guys are gone.
Ty and Secchi type.
You're going to sitting there like, okay, he played pretty well in 2018, but he kind of dropped off, but he was useful for these guys last year. Like, that's what they do, and that's what this will be.
All the charges are dropped.
It's like, at some point, you got to change what you're doing. At some point, you got to not break the bank, but you got to be able to pay somebody that's not in your own free agency list. So
they work upstairs. You don't have to tell us. They work upstairs.
Who has Phil been coached like 3 years ago that was pretty good that he coached somewhere?
Are you referring to somebody specifically? I mean,
is there one?
I don't know. I'm looking at and I can hear Trey Turner's out there. He's not who he used to be, but I think he could step in and be serviceable. I think he's mainly been a right guard, not a left. Ethan Posick, another guy, he had a very up and down career in Seattle, but it could at least be a placeholder. I bet I can hear people grimacing at Will Hernandez, the old Giants guard.
Yeah.
I can really hear people grimacing at Eric Flowers.
I was waiting for that one. Yeah.
But that's what you're left with 10 days into free agency.
That's also why I threw the center out there, because there's a really good center that's sitting out
Treader?
there. Yeah. And so do you think by getting somebody like that, now you can afford to have a left guard that maybe isn't as great, but because you got a really nice right guard, you feel good about your right tackle and you feel good about your left tackle, maybe left guard just becomes your weak link that you just got to work with, right?
A rookie. I mean, I would love to put – you have a veteran center that was good, and you have Tyron over here. I'd like to put a rookie guard in there to say, all right, figure it out.
I would love that.
I know that's probably not likely, but I'm just saying, that's –
But the older you get, once you've had a few NFL contracts, it gets very hard to predict your market. Yeah. Like J.C. Treader can do whatever the hell he wants to. You know, he might not just jump at the best deal. He might, at this point in your career, you're like, want to go somewhere where I can be successful. The money's got to be a respectable offer, but this, that, and the other. That's why Bobby Wagner's still great. He is going to wait for the exact right opportunity. He doesn't have to. He's not going to be pigeonholed into something he doesn't want to do. J.C. Treader's probably very similar. So. Yeah. I can't even confidently predict what those type of guys might be worth.
Yeah.
Well,
all right, go ahead.
Real quick, I was just thinking, I'm like, who are our tackles right now? And we're just counting too on Tyron Smith being available the whole freaking season.
Well, that's why swing tackle is so important. And when I threw it out there, I was hopeful that you guys weren't going to just kind of poo-poo that, because
that guy's going to start.
That guy's
going
to play. Yeah, he's going to play this year. If history is any indicator.
Jeff Kavanaugh made a joke yesterday about the swing tackle situation. He was like, well, I guess if your left tackle hurts his knee in the first quarter and your right tackle hurts his ankle in the third quarter, then maybe you're doing this. And I was like, you realize that happens here all the time. Several times in the last 2 years, they've been down to their fourth tackle in a game. Yeah. It's very important.
Yeah.
And they're people act like this is people are like, when are they finally going to address tackle? I'm like, we've been talking about this for years. This has been, especially in the draft, we've been considering tackle prospects for at least 3 years at this point. Maybe this will be the year. I don't know.
They may have to. I think, honestly, they have to at this point, just because for the rest of his career, Tyron Smith is going to need a reliable backup, because you have to look at history, and history says he's not going to make it a full 17 games.
And I don't think it's as easy as moving Terrence Steele over to left tackle if that were to happen. More so than maybe ever, because having the safety blanket of Lyle there for a few years was really nice. But yeah, you got to have an above average third tackle for this team, I think.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the wide receiver position. How does that fall in your level of priority? When you look at the offensive line, we all think the offensive line is a problem. We know they've got some holes there. Where does wide receiver line up with that? Is it more important? Is it about the same, or is it less?
Firmly 1B.
Firmly.
I consider it a problem that needs to be addressed, but not as badly as the offensive line. And I really think if you were making me predict right now what they're going to do with pick 24, whatever offensive lineman or wide receiver they feel better about. And if I had to guess, they would go offensive line, A, because it's a bigger need, B, because there's a lot of really great receivers in this draft. But those are the two biggest needs on this entire roster, in my opinion.
Yeah, they obviously, with Amari gone, and then they're sliding CD up, obviously, he's going to be the guy. But, I just think that I know you disagree, but I think James Washington is going to be similar to Cedric Wilson. I think that's a similar type of player right there. And I think that Cedric had a chance to do a lot with some injuries that opened the door for him, and that didn't really happen for James Washington. But when he was at Pittsburgh his second year, he did have those numbers. So the numbers are pretty comparable. Obviously that's a he's excited to be back, and he wanted to be here. And of course, I know people from his hometown. My wife's from his hometown, and everyone's excited about that. And he's excited to rekindle that and be that guy. I don't think he's going to be Amari Cooper, but I think he can be that third, maybe fourth receiver that could be a really good player.
Well, I do agree with you on that. Where you and I disagreed was you thought that Amari, they really haven't found a replacement for Amari. And what I was saying was I think they've replaced him, or at least in their mind, they think they've replaced him with CD.
Okay, stop. Who's replacing CD then?
Well, That's what I was saying. I think everybody slid up. I think he went up to 1. I think Gallup went up to 2. The question is, can James Washington be a 3, or is he really more of a 4 like Cedric? That's where I think you got to replace. But I don't think they have. I don't think if you look at just Amari's role, again, in their minds, we don't know if that's going to play out. We don't know if CeeDee's actually going to be that. We know CeeDee was their number 1 receiver last year statistically in most every category, but we don't know if without having Amari on the field, if that's going to be the same thing. And the point I made to you earlier also is there weren't a lot of games last year where you had all 3 of those guys playing. Right. The majority of the season, you did not. So you can't even say that, well, they don't have all 3. Well, they didn't have all 3 most of last year either. And so the question just becomes, is James Washington, which I think he might be, is he good enough to be your 3rd wide receiver? And if he is, or if you go out and draft a guy in the 1st or 2nd round that can come and be your 3rd wide receiver, I think I feel pretty good that the wide receiver core will not be the problem. Yeah, like it may not. You can question whether they'll be as good as that other wide receiver group, but I don't think you can question that they won't be the problem. There'll be other things that will be problems for this team way before you get to wide receiver.
I don't want to play that game where I'm hoping that can be true. But
that's the NFL. Because you're going to lose guys every year.
Sure,
so you do the hoping game every year.
Throw numbers at the problem and say, I feel a hell of a lot better about Chris Olave or George Pickens picking this receiver core up than hoping that a guy who's done it sort of once. James Washington's best season, he had fewer catches than Cedric had last year. Just to give
catches.
Yes, catches.
Not yards, yes.
But Cedric had like 640.
I thought that year, that 2019 for James Washington was comparable to Cedric's numbers last year.
That's what I'm saying. It was a similar season.
Same season.
But Cedric is the 4th receiver on this team. Right. He was 4 until there was an injury. So the 4th needs to slide into the 3rd, which is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is it's one or the other. Either James needs to step up and become that 3rd wide receiver, or you need to draft somebody that can become that 3rd wide receiver. And if either of those two things happen, in my opinion, you're back to a good wide receiver.
And don't forget, Michael Gallup has a really good chance of starting the season on PUP.
Got it.
So that means all this talk about being a 3rd, 4th, I mean, it's actually 2. There's a chance that
or maybe a week or 2. Yeah,
you draft a receiver, and him and James are going to be 2 and 3 behind CeeDee. So
I don't want to be at the golf tournament in late May listening to the front office talk about, it just didn't work out with a receiver in the draft, but we feel good about James, and we got some young guys here.
That doesn't make me feel good.
Brandon Smith and Osiris Mitchell, they're chomping at the bit to show you what they can do, and we feel no. I've done that. And they traded for Amari Cooper 6 months later.
Right. Semi Fehoko.
Sure. Cool.
They need a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round pick at wide receiver, in my opinion, in order to make this thing work.
Yes. All right. We agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. As long as they do that, that's James Washington, get in there, show me what you can do, and hopefully you exceed my expectations. But I'm sick of this thing where we're counting on that. Jeff Heath's never done this, but we think he can be a great starting
Yeah. No, and I'm not really, honestly, that's not the argument I'm making. James Washington, I don't expect him to be your 2. I expect James Washington to be the 3 or the 4.
But again,
and I think you need that draft pick in there.
What do we expect versus what do they do?
True.
That's my point.
True.
So I hope that they agree with us.
Are we not going to talk about that they've re-signed Sprinkle?
Have they finally done that?
Yeah, they just re-signed him.
Why are we talking about that?
Because we're up to date. This is current news. This is current stuff that's happening. Yeah, they signed him. He's agreed to terms for a while, but they just signed the deal.
I was about to say, I thought that happened a while back.
No.
It got snagged up.
He was holding up. He was like, wait, hold on. I need to think about this.
You laugh, but that is a position that needs numbers. Dalton Schultz is great. I'm not trying to sell anybody that Jeremy Sprinkle is awesome. I straight up mean they need guys that
don't just need numbers.
Get on the football field.
They need a blocker. They need a blocker, I think, in the worst way at the tight end position.
Somebody go call Mercedes Lewis. Otherwise,
is there nobody in the draft? Come on, draft guy. Give me a guy.
Do you watch college football?
Man, who does that?
Tight ends don't block anymore. That's not a thing.
And if they do, they're going to make him a left tackle.
Yeah.
I can find you 6 guys that can be Dalton Schultz.
But nobody that can be a blocker.
I mean, sure, you can develop into that, but I have not come across a tight end that's just he doesn't do much in the pass game, but he'll run 3 guys out of the play. If he's out there, I haven't heard his name. Please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free.
All right, well, end the show on a downer. Thanks.
Sorry, that's what I do.
Speaking of downers, I'm just sitting here putting up the Jeremy Sprinkle story on the Spanish side, and I'm just listening to you guys, and I feel, I don't mean to be a downer too, but I feel terrible about this offense right now. I really do. I mean, you guys went through the offensive line, we went through the wide receiver position, and now you started talking about tight end. And nothing in any of those areas make me feel very good coming as we stand here right now. And even if they address things through the draft, I'm always hesitant because I don't know. Like I want to see it on the field. Let's see how these rookies come in and step up. It's very hard to do something like Micah Parsons have done, and people do it every year. But it's hard to get guys like that can step up right away. And right now, the offense. It's just, I don't.
It's hard for me to picture them being better in 2022
offensively. Yeah,
I agree. It just is
because going into the offseason, there was one thing that I thought was the biggest priority for this team to fix, and that was the offensive line, and that's the area that they've lost and haven't added anything back. Like there are other areas where you might have lost something, but you added something. Like that's the area they haven't gained anything. They've gained no ground. They've actually regressed from the standpoint of just bodies. So. I don't feel good at all about that, about the offense. And I think that's where the offense starts and ends, is how good is your offensive line?
I guarantee we'll be sitting here in a week and we'll have a better feeling about it.
Good.
This free agency, this is what they're still going to do stuff. They're still going to and they're going to get guys. And even if you're like, well, who's out there? Who are they going to keep?
Give me a Kyle Kozar type guy. Like that's all I'm looking for right now is a guy that's steady. A guy that's steady.
Yeah, and another thing that you got to factor in on the defense side too is when you look at, okay, they lost Randy, they got these two guys. I mean, do we think Micah Parsons is going to be the same player he was last year? I mean,
I hope he's better.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think Trayvon. He's going to be a better player.
Well, the flip side of that coin is Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, you always hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
You always hope. I don't take anything for granted. I hope Mike is a better player, but you can't. I always say it's not Madden. You don't automatically jump 6 spots. You don't go from 80 to 86 automatically. Yeah. Some players go up and down. Some just go down. Some go up.
At the end of 2018, I was convinced.
I'll take my chances with Mike Parsons.
You're right.
We had the next Luke Kuechly is what I thought. Like I was like, I was sure he was going to be the truth, and it didn't work out like that. Like you're right. It just. Everything is always it's a brand new season and you just don't know where it's going to go from there.
I want to be clear. I'm with Nick. Like I'm not betting against Micah, but I just don't assume anything in this stupid league.
But again, like we're doing this podcast, what we do on Wednesdays and all that. But we're not done with free agency. Obviously the draft, and that's why offensive line is so important. I think in the draft, the guy that I want, I don't even know what his name is, but his position needs to have a slash. That's what I want. I want a slash tackle. I mean, guard slash tackle, center slash guard, something like that. That's what I need. I need a versatile player that is a plug and play. Amber said it earlier about, is he going to be ready to go? Yes, because that is the difference. When they're looking at 3 or 4 guys up there, which guy starts next week at OTA? That's the guy that you need. He's NFL ready because he's played at this Big Ten school for 4 years. Put him in. He's ready to go because that's what you need. You need a plug-and-play guy.
All right, appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back next week on Wednesday at our normal time. Till then, Nick Eatman. For Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, and Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.